The question is the motion be agreed to, and I call the member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And Deputy Speaker, I'd like to, of course, follow on from the remarks of the previous speaker in paying respect to the life of Graham Richardson. Deputy Speaker, on the Tuesday before his passing, my phone lit up and I got an SMS, and it started with, "Mate, you look good on the ABC News tonight. Hope you are well." And I replied, and I hope he doesn't mind me of breaching confidences, "Thanks, Richo. I still owe you lunch." "Ha ha, yes, you keep promising that." "Well, I do. I'm just pointing out I haven't forgotten," was my response. And then I went on to say, "Outside of an expletive show, how do you see our internal games at the moment?" I won't repeat what happened thereafter, except to finish by finishing my SMS exchange by saying, "Hence I asked." That certainly reflects the engagement I had with Graham Richardson. Forthright, honest, private, apart from, of course, what's now read into the parliamentary Hansard, about someone of a political, it's odd to say mentor from somebody from the other side of politics, but somebody who actually sought me out and started to engage during his media career. I didn't know him in the time when he was in this place. I only read about his political career well after it was gone. I have a dog-eared copy of Whatever It Takes, not through a component of scholarship, but simply because somebody gave me a second-hand copy when I was an adult, and it's a reflection very much on the use and wielding of political power. But he was clearly a large-than-life figure when he was in this place and down the road. And you hear that from the speakers who have honoured his life and his legacy and his achievements as a minister, but more clearly as a significant contributor to the Labor movement. There's a certain fondness that I think we all must have when condolence motions are made from whatever side of politics, when you have a partisan who's held in such, I don't know whether it's rancour or esteem, or perhaps a mixture of both, by people on the same side of politics, that there's nonetheless an affection and warmth because at least they were in the fight together. And so I honour very much his legacy as a member of the Labor Party and his contribution to it, though obviously sometimes I probably disagreed vehemently with what he was fighting for. He used to regularly taunt me when he was doing his television shows on Sky News, sometimes when I was on his program and sometimes when I was not, and he'd say, "I don't know about that, Tim Wilson. He could have potentially been a member of the Labor Party until he heard my views, and then he suddenly would adjust." But it showed that he was always prepared to have a laugh, have a go, and with a smile to engage on the important issues at the time. And so I always enjoyed his counsel and always enjoyed his friendship. So the question is, Deputy Speaker, why did I owe him lunch? The reason I owed him lunch was because in the lead-up to the 2022 election, we took a bet live on air about the result of that election. I lost the bet in more ways than one. But as a consequence,
Order. A division. The member for Goldstein in continuation.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I sort of feel it's appropriate that this section of the speech begins almost in the spirit of Richo. I can imagine him saying, well, since I was rudely interrupted by democracy in continuation. So the question is, why did I owe him lunch? And the short answer is, in the lead-up to the 2022 election, live on air, we took a $100 bet about what the outcome was. And as I was saying, Deputy Speaker, I lost that bet in more ways than one. Let's just say that. And when I went to ask for his bank account details on the eve of the election, because I was not oblivious to the realities of the situation, he said, "Next time you're in town, buy me lunch." And then, of course, a few days later, I said, "When am I going to honour the bet?" And, of course, when it came down to it, I never really got to Sydney to be able to honour the bet. Then, of course, he SMS'd me more recently and said, "Actually, I'll buy you lunch," which was very kind and generous of him. But, of course, I couldn't possibly do that. I'm a man who owes my debts, so honours my debts. So, in that spirit, of course, when his widow, Amanda, and Darcy came to Parliament the other day for this motion, I extended, of course, that I still owe them lunch. And I want to make sure that that is honoured, and I extend my warmest condolences to both Amanda and Darcy. I understand how many members have regarded or made comment about the fact that Richo lived to make sure that he could see Darcy finish his secondary education and that now he's going on to university. And I'm sure he would have been enormously proud of that achievement. But whatever it is and whatever contributions Richo made to this world, and it was clearly a colourful life filled with rancour, contest and contribution, and, of course, warmth and friendship. He was nonetheless a figure who I always found him to be incredibly generous, supportive, offered counsel, and was incredibly warm. And so I'll miss him, and I pay tribute to him, but also acknowledge that one day, if I make it to heaven and he happens to be there as well, I promise you, Richo, I will buy you lunch. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.